Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out on CNBC. And, I already heard about Trump's big announcement on the opioid plague. And, ladies and gentlemen, y'all being played big time. You really are. Trump did not propose anything in this speech that has not either already been done or is going to make any difference. I'm going to say this again. If you don't do anything on the user level, then all else is going to fail. As long as the users have amnesty out here, you are never going to get control over this plague. Never. Y'all keep dancing all around the user and trying to deal with everything else. It hasn't worked yet because the root of how you quash this whole thing is dealing with the user. And until you get it, this plague ain't going nowhere, especially based on what Trump said today. Man, you can forget it. And he did not address some of the most important things. So I'm going to go through his speech and I'm going to give you my opinion as I go along here. Trump vows to liberate United States from opioid plague. Failure not an option. It's just feel good buzzwords. Means nothing. Um, Trump vowed Monday to liberate the United States from the plague of opioid abuse as his administration released a broad slate of measures to tackle the crisis. Failure's not an option. Addiction is not our future, Trump said during a speech in Manchester, New Hampshire, a state that has one of the highest rates of fatal drug overdoses nationally. We will not rest until the end. And I will tell you that this scourge of drug addiction will stop. It will stop, Trump said, and a promise that will be very difficult. It's not impossible to fulfill, Trump said. We will raise a drug free generation of American children, whatever. Okay. So we know heroin, fentanyl, carfentanil, the drugs that everybody are heavily using along with opioids out here. That's nothing new. Under the three-prong approach revealed Monday, the Trump administration plans to reduce the demand of overprescription of opioids, cut off the supply of illegal drugs, and help people addicted to drugs by expanding access to treatment. All right, now let's go back to what his three-prong approach is. Number one, doctors out here are already cutting back on writing prescriptions. And I've done multiple articles that said even cutting back on the prescriptions did not slow this plague down because there's too many illicit drugs on the street. So whatever they can't get from their doctors, they're now turning to heroin and whatever drugs they can get on the street. So it hasn't put a dent in this plague because some doctors cut back on prescriptions. Now, the other thing that he is proposing is cutting off the illegal drugs. There are so many packages of fentanyl and illegal drugs coming in this country from China. Even the Postal Service says they can't scan all of these packages. They just simply can't. You know, The only way they catch some of the packages by is just by doing some random scans of packages. But as far as all of them, it's impossible for them to get all of these packages. I think they said there were 300 million packages that came into the country from China. You can't scan all those packages. And he said, help people addicted to drugs by expanding access to treatment. And again, getting people into treatment, that's not always easy. You know, if the person is an adult and they don't want treatment, they're not going to go get it. Go walk in the middle of a bunch of junkies and say the word rehab. They'll cuss your ass out. They will cuss you out because they're not thinking about rehab. They want to be high. They love being high. Okay, among other measures, the president said his administration is considering launching a federal lawsuit targeting makers of prescription painkillers. That's already been done by states already. I mean, and I've done articles on that as well. Damn near all the states in this country have already pursued lawsuits with the pharmaceutical companies. So, again, what is he proposing that hasn't already been done? A lawsuit is not going to curb the addiction that's going on out here. If it was, we would have seen it by now through all of the states that have already pursued lawsuits. And it still hasn't slowed the addiction up in their states. Okay. So he also proposed, let's see. Okay. So now he's also seeks damages from, yeah, from the drug manufacturer that fueled the plague. I mean, we already seen that before, and it didn't slow nothing down. Trump also called for more frequent use of death penalty and prosecution of drug traffickers under existing law. The death penalty already exists in many states in the country, okay? And it's used for people that commit murders, okay? Has murder stopped in America? Has it slowed down because some states got the death penalty? So if he nabs up a few drug traffickers and some dealers and put them to death, do you think in the climate that we live in, where we have a lot of people that are unemployed, can't get jobs because they have drugs in their background that comes up in a background check, and a lot of companies won't take a chance with a former junkie because the risk is too great for them to fall off the bandwagon. And you have the crowd of people out here that can't pass a pre-employment drug test. Do you think it's going to stop them from dealing drugs because he grabs up a few and put them to death? And then I also have an issue with that too. We have a lot of corrupt cops in America that plant drugs and guns on people all the time. There are videos also of cops planting drugs and guns on people. And we have heard these stories. I've heard these stories for years in the black community from people that talk about drugs and things that were planted on them. It's a notorious thing for happening in the black community. So if a cop plants drugs on someone just to get that person jailed, or he just wants to plant drugs because, cops get promotions on their arrest. So, what's to stop a cop from planting drugs on somebody and then claiming that person was trafficking drugs? What's to stop them from doing it? And what's the penalty for cops that are planting drugs on people? See, this is why I'm telling you what Trump is proposing is not going to work. Death penalty has never stopped anybody from doing crimes in America and executing a few drug dealers and traffickers. I promise you, drug dealing in America will continue. These are all band-aid things that he's proposing. This stuff ain't going to do anything as far as stopping the drugs from going on in America. What really, other than the death penalty thing, what is he proposing that's new? Nothing. All right. So when you get a little further into the article, he goes on a tangent about the sanctuary cities and which limit cooperation with federal immigration officials, and saying their policies are keeping undocumented immigrants on the streets and committing crimes. Other measures announced by Trump on Monday, including achieving a goal of reducing the number of opioid prescriptions by one-third by adjusting federal policies related to prescription reimbursement. He also said the federal government will be spending a lot of money on great commercials. Now, did the Just Say No commercials work during the crack epidemic, ladies and gentlemen? Did that stop one crackhead out here? I don't believe it stopped one. Seriously, he thinks putting some more Just Say No commercials on TV is going to. Woo! Again, what is he proposing that has not already been done? The only thing he's saying different maybe is the death penalty. But other than that, what is he saying that's different from what has happened already before in the past? And it didn't work then. So he's going to put some really great commercials on TV, ladies and gentlemen, geared towards the children that they're not even going to pay attention to. Okay, so we're over a year into the Trump presidency and the thousands of granite starters. Um, I'm sorry, granite staters who are working tirelessly to turn the tide of our state's rapid and raging opioid plague is still waiting for federal response. In other words, they're waiting for funding. And that's the biggest complaint in most of these states. They are saying they are not getting enough support and federal funds to fight the opioid plague in their state. Now, Trump already said there will be no new money. Okay, he said no new money will be added to this plague. And the biggest complaint, and damn near all of the articles that I do, are doctors and politicians and others that are complaining that they need federal funds in order to fight this thing in their state. And they are not getting any support in federal funds from Washington. And you remember, Trump said there will be no new funding when he declared this a public health emergency. So, New Hampshire has the third highest drug overdose death rate in the US. Okay? The fact is, Trump has spent the last year dithering on how to respond to this crisis and ignoring the recommendations of his own panel. Patrick Kennedy, one of 6 members on the president's bipartisan opioid commission, called the administration efforts to address the crisis a tantamount to reshuffle the chairs on the Titanic, a sham and a charade. Okay, in all honesty, I don't see what Trump said today as a big deal. I'm serious. I don't see it. If some of you see what he is saying, putting on some more just say no commercials, suing the pharmaceutical company, building the wall, sanctuary cities, and all that, this stuff has already been in motion and it hasn't done anything. So just tell me what you think. Personally, I think he did this because he felt like he had to say something about this epidemic. But if he was really serious, why did he put a panel of people together for his opioid commission and everything they suggest and recommend, he ignores them? Then what was the point? You just put them together for show? That must be it. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell twice and join me on blackspot.com and Black Junction TV. Peace, family.